As he was saying before, until you cap taxes, you're not going to drive the savings on the spending side. What is the evidence for that?
Well, in New York State in the last 25 years, we've had 2 periods of significant major surges in local aid, particularly school aid. We're now in our 3rd surge. And the point's been made by Paul Francis, the current budget director, that you have to be aware that restraint on state spending means restraint on aid, and that can have an effect on local taxes. The problem is the way that cycle has worked in practice and in history is that enormous increases in local aid, particularly school aid, ultimately, at the end of the day, the main impact they have is to drive significant increases in spending at the local level. They cannot be sustained because of normal changes in the economic cycle, even if they are desirable, which is arguable. And if things like STAR, any kind of program like STAR, and we were late coming to the game on STAR. Many other states, if not most, have one form or another of jury-rigged, crazy quilt system that attempts to help people address their property tax burden because the legislature didn't want to actually address the causes of that problem. It's done everywhere. But whether it's, as Laura made the point, STAR's design initially was almost tailor-made to exaggerate the spending impetus for local districts. The rebate check is better, but ultimately STAR is a way of subsidizing your property tax. When you subsidize something, you get more of it. And that's the ultimate problem. And that's why the cap is necessary. Again, you can address the funding equity issues. And I agree very importantly with something Marcia said and Assemblywoman Gallup said about the issue of equity in administration. It's something that hasn't been addressed, and it's very important, and I strongly agree with that. And we haven't actually talked much today, although both the Commissioner and Assemblywoman Gallup have talked about the huge problems with administration of the property tax. If I can make any other main point here, you know, the unhappiness with property taxes around the state has led people in some regions to say, we'll be satisfied with nothing less than the elimination of property taxes on homes, that it is inherently unfair and must be ended. And I want to make the point, yeah, you've heard that, I know. Nothing could be clear. Couldn't anything be more obvious than that? Right? And I want to make the point that, no, I disagree, that a fairly administered, reasonably limited property tax is a good revenue source, an indispensable revenue source, and particularly for local government, appropriate revenue source. Because done right, what it does, it's stable, it is economically neutral, and it's visible. Those are all good things. And the other problem we have in this state, aside from the level of taxes, is just the extraordinarily bad, chaotic system of administering taxes. And unfortunately, the only time the legislature has ever taken a major hack at this was almost 30 years ago. It didn't make it any better and arguably made it worse. And that's the point of real despair when I think about these things is not even so much about doing those things that quite frankly, unions don't want you to do. I think there's a foreseeable universe in which that was overcome even to an extent. This property tax administration issue, though, is a really tough one. And certainly nobody, Tom Suozzi, more than anybody, could attest to that, or anybody in New York City. But I think that's really an important issue, because I think what's happening now is people are so unhappy about this property tax. You're seeing more and more people running around saying, just get rid of it, eliminate it. That is understandable, but it's a really, really bad idea. And I'm hoping that somehow more can be done on this property tax administration.